And I've asked Attorney General McCuskey to launch an investigation into the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee to determine if any backroom deals, corruption, bribes, or any nefarious activity occurred during the selection process. I know that the Attorney General and I are going to leave no stone unturned during this process.
And with that, we welcome you into a feisty episode of Church Pew Sports. It's great to have you all with us. Thanks for being a part of it and for subscribing and hopefully sharing the link to the podcast with other sports fans in your world. It is the onset of March Madness, and this year March Madness may be subtitled March Angry and Madness because there's a whole lot of fun going on before the start of the tournament. Bill Hobson here, as always, joined by Pastor Paul Miller, who's checking in from his Minneapolis headquarters. We have David Collins with us, as always, and because this is March Madness Bracketology Week, we had to go to get our Duke insider, the only one of the four of us who has ever slept overnight on the sidewalk to get into a basketball game. It's been a while, Josh Gilmer. It's good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. And I mean, Paul, we should probably just take a brief moment and scold Joshua for violating Church Pew Sports etiquette when it comes to personal relationships.
Yeah, you got to be referring to the fact that Josh is now engaged.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty amazing. Congratulations. And like I was telling you off microphone, bro, your job between now and the wedding day is to nod your head, say yes to everything, offer up an opinion whenever you're asked if you have an opinion. And then when you're told why your opinion is wrong, you just go, oh, okay. That's it. That's all you got to do. And then show up on the day. That's it.
And the reason why I cited this as a breach of etiquette is because I thought we had an understanding that any potential mate would have to appear on this podcast before the deal was sealed, and that didn't happen. So, Josh, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, she's not the biggest fan of sports, so I think I'm doing you a favor by not having her on. But it worked for me because now she will like all of my teams, and slowly but surely she will like sports.
So what you're saying is she's going to change who she is to align more closely with who you are.
No, she's just gonna pretend to enjoy sports so she can watch them with me.
Okay.
Oh, this is heading in a very fun direction. It's time for the reality show to begin. By the way, maybe she doesn't care that much for sports, but today we actually launched things with politics. And I know David Collins is especially excited about the confluence of March Madness and a governor looking into a full-scale investigation of the NCAA Tournament Committee. So let's start there. The brackets have been released. By the way, we would love to have all of you take part in the Church Pew Sports Bracket Challenge. You will find the bracket link in the podcast notes and on our social channels at Facebook and X. Join in. It doesn't cost anything. A little later in our conversation, we'll dive more deeply into how we're going to reward winners and losers and all of that. But the brackets are out, and the brackets have been probably more controversial this year than any time I can remember, both for who was left out and then who was included and then how they were seated. So, David, where do you want to start with this? You want to go right to the governor's office in West Virginia?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to start where Paul wants me to start. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give him his flowers. I'm not going to do that. The fact is, Louisville is a top 10 team in the AP voting, and they're an 8 seed. What is that? West Virginia was in on 111 of 111 polls, and they're not in the tournament, and UNC is. And it just so happens that their general manager is the basically deciding factor of who gets in and who gets out. And I'm not going to do this. I'm very frustrated about a lot of things. Michigan beat Purdue twice. They beat Wisconsin twice. I'm very angry, but I'm going to be just calm about it because you know what? Like, bring it. Like, I want Auburn round 1. I want Duke round 2. Give me your best, and we'll beat them. And if we don't, then we don't. Like, it's the way it's gone. I like.
Yeah. Do you know
It's
that?
frustrating. It's frustrating. Like, if you're a West Virginia fan or you're a Louisville fan, like, how can you not be mad?
Oh, they are.
They are.
You're the number 10 team in the country, and you're an 8 seed. Michigan beat Purdue, whatever, and they're a 5 seed, and Purdue's a 4 seed, and whatever. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Who is doing this?
Well, so here's Josh Gilmer sitting in his vehicle at on the campus of Duke University, where there's no more bitter rival than the one just down the road a little bit, the Tar Heels, whose athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, was in charge of the committee. And there is not one piece of empirical data that would justify North Carolina being in the NCAA tournament that I'm aware of. And
There is
Josh,
one. There is one, Bill. Sorry. There's one.
yeah.
That is the UNC AD gets a $70,000 bonus if their basketball team makes the tournament.
Yep.
Okay. Josh, the Duke perspective on UNC getting into the tournament, what's it look like?
I think you guys have all said the Duke perspective quite clearly. I don't know what went on in there, but seems like something went on in there. And yeah, 1 in 12 quad 1 record gets you in now. So
Wow.
I don't know since when, but
Say that again.
apparently it does.
Michigan had
12.
the 4th best quad 1 win record and got a 5. And the team they beat twice got a 3. Like, explain that to me. Somebody. Paul, explain that to me. No,
There
go ahead.
There's no explanation.
I understand that. You explain it to me.
There is no explanation for the way the Big Ten teams were seeded. There's really not. The only explanation is they put them in place before the Big Ten tournament and they forgot to change them or something like that. It had to be something like that.
Which brings to mind the question, which conference tournament means less? The football conference championship game or the basketball conference tournament? Which one's more meaningless from a ranking standpoint?
I'll tell you, Bill, the 14th ranked SEC team is higher than Louisville, who was number 10 in the country.
Okay.
So you go ahead and do with that what you will, but that's the reality that we're living in. The 14th ranked. 14 out of 16 teams in the SEC got in.
So, Josh, in
Go ahead, do with that what you will.
In Duke country, Josh, you guys obviously have very intelligent student body, many of whom have far too much time on their hands because they can sleep in tents before basketball games. Could you bring together sort of an ad hoc investigative committee and figure out who all sat in that championship committee room? Who decided that Bubba Cunningham, the AD at North Carolina, could get away with saying, well, I removed myself from the room when those discussions were taking place? And everybody just goes, oh, well, he removed himself from the room. Can you guys tackle that for us there in Duke land?
I'm sure I have a lot of friends that are already doing that on the side. So,
As they should.
Okay, so as you look at the brackets, and David, we'll start with you, and Josh will come to you, and then Paul. What's the most egregious part of the brackets as you see them now? Is it who's left out, or is it where some team like Michigan is seated? I know there's no logic to it. So which part kind of stokes your fire the most?
To me, and if I'm being honest, it has nothing to do with Michigan. It's Louisville being an 8 seed as a number 10 overall AP pick. Like, what are we doing? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're the number 10 overall pick, like the Michigan thing bothers me because not only are they the 5 seed, they're the worst 5 seed. They have to play in Auburn's bracket, the overall number 1. They have to play a 30-win team like that, like none of it makes any sense to me. it bothers me. But if I'm a Louisville fan right now or a West Virginia fan right now, I am heated. And I'm heated as a Michigan fan, as a 5 seed. I can't imagine if I was a West Virginia fan at this point. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
When we got to this moment near the end of Michigan, Wisconsin, I was texting with my son. We're talking about potential seeds, and he said, "Yeah, they probably could be a 4." And I said, "Oh man, I would be shocked if they were below a 3 and wouldn't be stunned if they were 2, but probably a 3 is more realistic." This moment.
14.3. Blackwell charges right to left for the Badgers. Around a crowd screen. Angles left of the lane. Picks up his dribble. He'll shoot a mid-range J. Front iron, no. Rebound, back tap Blackwell. 4 seconds left. Shoots, misses. Rebound, no. 0.7 seconds left. Wolf is fouled. 57-53 Michigan.
Yeah, you talk about finding a way. Talking about finding a way.
So what does a conference championship mean for any
A
conference,
5,
or any of them?
Bill, a 5 when you've beaten Purdue twice, Wisconsin twice, like Maryland once, and you won the conference tournament in the Big Ten, which is supposed to be a big conference, and you're a 5?
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, take the seeds out of it. What do you think of Michigan's path?
I think Michigan is at best an Elite Eight team, and at worst, they go out in the first round.
Yeah, because they're so streaky. And if they play a game with 20 turnovers, as we've seen quite often in the last month,
They don't have a single guard that can break down a defense, but they have the 2 best bigs in the country, as far as I'm concerned, is like the way they play off each other. But that could be they lose round 1, or they go to the Elite Eight and they lose to Florida or whoever. Michigan State probably again.
Josh, two best bigs in the country are at Michigan.
The way they play off each other. That's what I'm saying.
I would say in a duo, that's probably pretty fair, actually. Duke never plays with their 2 bigs together. We do have the tallest team in the country, so yeah, you know.
You're referring, of course, to Will Shetter, right, at Michigan, I would think.
Right. Yep, that's the one.
Okay, so on the campus at Duke, are there around-the-clock prayer and healing vigils taking place for the ankle of Mr. Flagg?
I have zero doubt in my mind that Cooper Flagg will be playing. I have heard some rumblings around. He probably could have played on Saturday, but there was no point. And
Because
I don't know.
Conference championships don't matter.
That's right, they don't. But I'm confident he'll play. We'll see if they put him in the first round. I think they might, but they also don't need to. But he'll definitely he'll play.
Okay, so SEC gets 14 teams in. Big Ten, I think, had 8 or something like that, if I remember right. And the Big 12, and then the ACC had like 4. Is that down of a year for the ACC?
The ACC is very bad. And to Louisville being an 8 seed, I will say, yes, they were ranked 10. I also think they were probably overrated. They've gotten smoked by the SEC teams that they got smoked by Ole Miss. They got smoked by Kentucky. Obviously, it always gets a little bit complicated because most of your games are in conference. So then, how are you deciding how good of a conference it is? But I will say that I think besides Duke, the ACC is not the best. So I don't have that many qualms with Louisville standing there. And as far as Michigan goes, I'd probably say I think Michigan should be a 4. I think the streakiness of 3 seems a little too generous to me. But, I mean, they did do well in the tournament. But then again, the question becomes, how much does that matter? So,
4th in quad 1 wins. 4th in quad 1 wins.
For people who aren't familiar with kind of the inside baseball world of the quad 1, quad 2, define quad 1. It's basically, I guess, in layman's terms, it's quality wins. It's top quality wins against top opponents. But when you're 4th in the country in that category of wins, one has to ask the question, had they lost on Sunday, I guess, against Wisconsin, would they have still been a 5 seed? Because it's fairly evident that those brackets were done Thursday or Friday.
They beat 3 top 20 teams in a row. Like,
Yeah.
and they have the same record as Purdue, but they beat Purdue twice and they're somehow behind Purdue. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know what to say. It doesn't make sense.
So are you waiting for Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer to hold a similar press conference to West Virginia's governor and launch an investigation?
No, like the worst part is that place UC San Diego or whatever is a 30-win team.
Yes. Yeah.
And got put in the bracket with the number 1 overall seed. Like none of this makes sense. That they should be a 3 seed in a weaker bracket. But you know what? Let's go play ball. We'll do what we do.
See what happens. I'm waiting for Governor Whitmer to introduce legislation that makes it illegal to kiss the logo at the center of your basketball court. That's what I'm waiting for Governor Whitmer to do.
Well, she's a Spartan, so that's not going to happen. It would be more likely to be deemed illegal to stand near the logo.
That would work.
At an appropriate moment. Well, there's so much to dissect in all of this, and I don't know if you've all filled out your brackets already. I did just before we started recording the podcast on this Monday afternoon. So I'm pretty sure I've locked it up. I think it's probably my title to lose, which is highly unlikely. But, Josh, as you assess your team, and I still remember having you on this podcast when Shire was hired to take over for Coach K, and things were not off to a great start. I believe there were a lot of very loud voices calling for Mr. Shire to seek new employment elsewhere. How are we feeling about the coach these days and about the prospects of this Duke team if Flag's able to play?
I will choose to not jinx myself. However, I feel more confident than I have ever felt in a long time. I think, and to Shire specifically, obviously there's always an argument as to how much the coach does in the day-to-day, but as far as recruiting goes, yes, Duke plays a big factor, but he knew exactly what to do. He knew we were too young. He brought in a lot of transfers, which I think is a crucial piece that kind of gets lost in the one and done world. So he kind of changed his strategy, and it's worked. And I think we just won the ACC without Cooper Flag and without our best defender or second best defender. I'd probably say Cooper's our best. So, I mean, winning without them was a big testament too. So he has earned my trust.
So how far do you have them going?
I feel like that's a little silly of a question, but yes.
I like that
You gotta
kid.
put
I
it on
like him a
record here.
lot. I like that kid.
I think a more appropriate question might be, will any of your classes be canceled or rescheduled, become optional, depending on Duke's game schedule during the tournament?
Probably not. We made it to the Final Four. That wasn't a thing. But if they win, that will definitely happen.
It's when you look at the scope or just the landscape of college sports, and we talked about it during football season quite a bit, with the unpredictability of transfer portals and NIL and all that stuff, the recruiting patterns in that world has changed so much. I'm going to play a brief soundbite from Steve Alford. Played for Bobby Knight and has been coaching a lot of different places. He's now coaching at Nevada. But he talked this week about the difference in the game from where it was just a short time ago and how difficult it's making things and in the new world order. I'll play this and then we can talk about it.
5 years ago, I wasn't, on conversation saying how much you want to be paid. Never thought that would happen in college basketball. And I've always been a big proponent as the game and money has evolved and changed. I've never been one that said I don't believe student athletes shouldn't be paid. But the way it is now is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. And it's changed our game. And so you got to adapt. We got to adapt, but every coach, every handshake I have now before games, that's brought up. Every game. Me and the opposing coach are going to talk about portal issues. And, where's academics at? The travel time that is across the country in these leagues. It makes no sense for that to be our model, but that is our model.
That is the model. Unless there's a commissioner appointed and some other sort of governing body appointed, it's not going to change. How much harder does all of that make predicting a champion or just predicting how how your bracket's going to come out? David, you look at all this and I wouldn't be surprised now nearly as much if I see a 2 seed get upset or a 3 seed get upset as I would have been a few years ago.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. Like the money has been going to certain teams for a lot of years, and now it's spread out. So now you're going to find new champions. You're going to find new people that are actually like Vlad Golden for Michigan. Like he was an FAU guy. Now he's getting a bunch of money to go play for Michigan. He's one of the best big men in the country. You look at it and go, yeah, we're just at this point where what was behind the curtains is now in the public eye. And I've been talking about that for years, and I've been wanting that for years. And now we're at that point. So you got to deal with it. If you're a coach, if you're somebody that's working with these players and you're trying to get players, et cetera, like you've got to deal with the fact that they are the reason you're making money, so they deserve to get money.
Yeah, so here's a next level question for you, bro. Do you think the changes in the NIL landscape and the parity that has introduced and everything else, do you think that is part of why there's so much heartburn over the seedings in the bracket? Do you think there's a connection there?
100%. Like the NCAA, I think the reason they put NCAA or North Carolina in versus West Virginia, I think that there is something to that, which that actually bothers me because now you're messing with the integrity of things because of the money. Like, whereas in the past, it was one side got all the money and got all the things and the players got nothing. Now you're doing the players get money, but the institution now deserves a level of money. And that's where I think it becomes a little bit like cautious. Like, like they're
Mm-hmm.
the institutions now get all this money, get this respect, get this, and they want a piece of that puzzle. Like, and that's what's difficult to me. Like but they have to find a way to do their thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think it's harder now for blue blood programs like Duke or Kentucky or whomever to be just automatically penciled into the Final Four?
Well, Duke's a 1 seed, and Kentucky is a high seed, and they have a good program. I do think it's going to be more difficult in college football than it is college basketball.
And there are still blue blood programs. Duke would be one of them, I would think, Josh, where high school recruiting is still a vibrant part of forming your basketball team. It's probably, let's put it this way, there is no chance the Wolverines are in the tournament, let alone we're arguing about their seeding, had it not been for the hiring of a whole new team, right?
Yeah.
We saw the performance last year. Yeah, Jawan was not doing a fantastic job, but those young men struggled in every facet of the game. Here comes massive substitution. It's a full line change with people we've never heard of before. And it's all because of transfer portal and NIL and all that. At Duke, I would think that there's still enough cachet to the program name that you might see Shire or his assistants sitting in a high school gym, making sure they're seen by the kid and going the traditional routes of saying, you come here, give us a few years, and we're going to turn you into something special. So in Duke land, Josh, where does the scale balance from, hey, there's some transfer portal talent out there we wouldn't mind having, versus let's just go create our own talent?
Well, I will say things have gone a little bit differently than I expected, kind of in the sense that you guys were all talking about there's a lot more parity now. I have said this in the past. I expected with the beginning of NIL to it to be very stereotypical, the rich get richer. Like Duke has all the money, Duke's going to continue to get the players. People without the money not going to get the players. Now there's just, less parity than there was. Um, but I will say that obviously for Duke, as big of a name as it is and as big of a wallet as it has not really been too affected. Now, we did get Cooper Flag. I will say some of these recruits that I think we could be more confident of getting have still come to Duke because we have the money. But because there are other places with money, it's not as automatic as it once was. So I do think that it becomes a little more crucial for um, them to actually, put in some effort into relationships and all these other things because now Duke can't ride on its name alone.
Yeah.
Have you like seen that shift within the recruiting boards and things like that, where it's not as high school heavy, but it's more portal heavy when you're just having general conversations about where your team could turn?
Well, definitely with football. With basketball, the one and done high school athletes is always a big peel, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So a little bit. I mean, like I said, we run a lot of grad transfers this year, but I still think the Cooper Flag, the Zion, those type of players, like they're always going to be around.
Yeah.
That's
Jay
it.
Billis was talking this week. I don't know. I kind of enjoy hearing him often when he's color commentating on a game that has kind of a blowout where he's got time to kill. And he starts kind of waxing on about the game and where it is and changes that he'd love to see introduced, uh, including to the review system. Oh, oh, the review system. How enjoyable were the last couple minutes of that Big Ten championship game for everybody? I think there were, David, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I think there were 5 reviews in the last 36 seconds or something like that, where every ball that went out of bounds everything was looked at. Even though at home we were like, oh, that's as clear as a bell. Here's Billis on some proposed rule changes.
The rules that need to change. We need to go to quarters. And we're the only game of basketball played in the world that doesn't have quarters, men's college basketball. And the reason I like it is you can reset team fouls at the end of the first and third quarters. It's just a smart thing to do. And we have to change the replay rule. Make it like the NBA. Give each team one challenge. If they get their first one right, they keep it for one more, and then that's it. Because we're the referees, and it's not their fault. It's the rule. They spend more time watching TV than they do officiating the game.
And we spend more time watching them watch TV than we do watching the game. So first, let's take the first suggestion first. Going to quarters instead of 2 20-minute halves, 4 10-minute quarters. Josh?
I think it could work. I'm a little bit, 20-minute halves is all I've ever known. So, and I don't really watch the NBA because that's, a wreck. So I can't speak too much to how it would be good. But I could see it working. I think the point about the team fouls is a valid point he gives.
And how about the other side of it with the reviews?
Oh, he's absolutely right about the reviews. I don't remember what game it was that I hadn't heard that clip, but I think it was the Duke Clemson game, but he literally just ranted for 5 minutes about the reviews, and I was just cracking up because he's right.
Paul, what are you doing with these two things? Let's talk quarters and then reviews on your angle.
Well, when I hear shorter quarters, I immediately think women's college basketball, and I just go like this. I have a negative reaction to it. But Jay Billis is smarter than me, and if he says it's a better way to track team fouls and all that other kind of stuff, then I'm here for that. I like Josh. I completely align with the changing the replay review system. If I'm an official and I know I can walk over to the monitor and kill the flow of the game, but at least get the call right, I'm doing that every time.
Well,
because I don't ever want to get a call wrong. And I want to make myself a non-factor. And that's the only way to do it. So I understand why the officials there in a catch-22. What else are they going to do? If anybody's complaining loudly enough, I'm going to go review it. So figure out a way to eliminate that. I do like you get one, if you win that challenge, you get one more and then you're done. I think that would actually work great. So
How about a world where in college basketball, we review everything except for the choices the committee has made? All right, David, what are you doing with these two things? Quarters, reviews.
Yeah, I think they need to go to quarters. In the end, every single, like international, women's, men's, every single group of people that play basketball do quarters,
Yeah.
except for college basketball. So I don't get why that has to be like this sticking point. As far as reviews go, I think I align with Paul. Like it's very difficult to judge these things in the moment, but at the same time, like we watched that Michigan Wisconsin game, and every call they made was the right call in the moment.
Yeah.
And then we went and reviewed it every time, and it ruins the flow of the game. So I'm not certain what we can do about it because you want to get it right, but they got it right every time.
Hmm.
That's what's difficult. Like, and I hate officiating across the board most of the time, but they got it right every time, and every single review said we got it right. So I don't know what to do about it. Like it's this up in the air hypothesis, like what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
Well,
on
just,
that part.
like the crazy guy screaming on the street corner, I will continue to assert my desire that during reviews.
But let me say this. If a ball goes out of bounds like 8:38 in the second quarter, is that more important than
Right.
what happens in the last 2 minutes?
Right.
Because to me, like if you're going to do these reviews, you should do them every single time a ball goes out of bounds. Like let's look at it.
Yeah.
Like why is it just the last 2 minutes? Like I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, D. In the Michigan-Wisconsin game, there was a moment in the last, I guess, 5 or 6 minutes, very tight game at that moment. And Trey Donaldson for Michigan, the point guard with the number 3, he's out on the wing guarding, I cannot remember who, and his gum flies out of his mouth, onto the court. And for reasons that I would love to learn, he just left his man to go pick up his piece of gum. He then realized that his guy was beating him to the basket, and so he sprinted back, committed a pretty aggressive foul, and then put his gum back in his mouth, and then lined up for the guy to shoot free throws. And I thought, if this is a super tight game, I wonder what it will feel like in the last seconds. And it was a super tight game where it would come down to these free throws. And you're right, early in the game, these kind of silly things happen, and they have an impact later in the game. So why are we just reviewing it at the end? Why not everything?
That's weird. They come up with new rules for the last 2 minutes of a game that they don't have the rest of the game. Like what?
Doesn't make
What
sense.
is that?
Yeah, you got to be consistent. Yeah.
Well, so my old crazy guy screaming on the street corner will continue to be that during a review, both teams have to line up at the opposite end of the court from their bench. So it's
And they can't talk to their coaches.
They
They have to just.
Or if they want to yell caddy corner across the court from 83 feet away, more power to you. Everybody will be able to hear you. But I just can't stand when they pull out the little chairs and they get in their little semicircle. They make s'mores. They sing campfire songs because they have time during these reviews.
Full timeouts.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every 20 seconds, it's a full timeout. It
Okay,
doesn't
so-
make sense.
I'm going to try. One of the things we hope to accomplish here at Church Pew Sports is that we all become just better people. I'm going to try. I'm not committing. I'm not putting any money on the line here. Paul, you can try to, kind of keep tabs on me. I'm going to try during the tournament in our little text group to not complain about reviews because I know they're coming. I know we're going to see Charles Barkley, Spike Lee, and Samuel L. Jackson every other second during commercial breaks. I already know that reviews do not eliminate the TV timeout that's still coming at the next dead ball.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get it all out here. on Church Pew Sports, episode 174. This is my cathartic moment. It's got to change. I wish Billis would step to that side of it because obviously his voice matters than mine. So we got to figure out what to do with this bracket. And Josh, I want your input on this and everybody else's. We got, when we did football and we did our season-long picks every week, we only had a prize for the loser. The loser had to watch the Kansas City Chiefs Hallmark movie and then bring a review on it. For the CPS Hoops bracket, we should probably have something for the winner, but definitely something for whoever is in the basement. What do you got? Let's go winner first.
Oh, I got something for the loser. I'm trying to think for the winner.
Okay, what's your David? What do you have for the winner?
No, I was just going to ask you who was the winner of the football picks.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah. Okay. I was just clarifying. That's all I wanted to do there. I didn't.
It was a
My
controversial.
apologies. I stepped in front of you and you were doing a thing.
It was a
I was the
controversial
winner.
tiebreak.
Yeah, I was the winner. So
You're the whiz. Nobody beats me. I'm the whiz.
yeah, exactly.
I think we should.
Go ahead with your show.
Yeah, I think we should have both the winner and the loser on the next episode after the tournament is over. So that I think David just illustrated the point. What the winner needs is to be able to, on microphone, say, yeah, I'm that guy.
Mm.
And then yeah, just like that. And then the loser needs to have to be like, I'll bow before you or whatever. So if we can just capture that somehow on the podcast and broadcast it out, maybe that's all we need to do.
Honestly, I would just like a meal, like just go out and get dinner and the other guy pays for it or something like that.
Oh, basement pays for Chick-fil-A for the winner, maybe.
No. The winner gets to choose.
Oh,
it's Ruth's Chris or it's like Chop House or something. But the loser has to pay for the winner. I'm just saying.
That's high pressure. I remember a couple years ago we did the bracket challenge and two ladies, I think, tied for first place, and they picked them according to the mascot's attractiveness.
Yeah.
That was nice. So Josh, what was your thought for the basement dweller?
Well, it's a little ambitious. This was one of the leading ones for my fantasy football. It didn't end up winning, but the loser has to drive to the winner. So you better hope my dad in Vegas doesn't win, because you would have quite a long drive ahead of you.
That's actually really good. That's really good.
You have to drive there to do what? Just like knock on the door and say congratulations?
Hang out.
You take them out to dinner. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you hang out. You take them out to dinner. That's what I said.
I really don't think we need to worry about Randy winning. So that's we're okay.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But it would be the worst of the options.
That really is springing from the mindset of Duke students who have the ability to just jump on a plane and at any point just travel across the country, sleep in a tent, launch investigations into shenanigans by the committee. For those who maybe don't have that wherewithal, that could be a real tough loss to take. I mean, that's an capital L loss if you're taking that one.
Yeah.
Especially if Paul's son in Hawaii wins. That's a tough drive.
Yeah. The other thing we could do, we could take a cue from the fantasy league that I was in, where we had all the participants together for a 3-day retreat right after the NFL season was over, and the person who lost, who was in the toilet bowl or whatever, had to pray every single time we needed somebody to pray for anything. That guy had to pray for 3 days, which at first, when we announced that, everyone's like, oh, so now praying is a punishment. And we're like, no. And of course, he was at the onset, he was like, oh, this is great because I love praying. And by the end of the 3 days, every time somebody would say, hey, Noah, it's your turn. Can you pray again? He would just look at me and roll his eyes and be like, all right.
He's out of fresh thoughts.
Done praying, whatever. So maybe we could do something with a 3-minute message or something. Who knows?
There you go.
The one we ended up having for our fantasy football league, it's a little college specific, and especially at Duke, has to go to the busiest part of campus and set up a table and convince everyone that they believe the earth is flat and why. And they just have to listen to all of the Duke students yell at them about why they're an idiot.
Oh, that's hilarious.
We could do the Waffle House Challenge. Josh, David, are you guys familiar?
Oh, I'm
Yes, I
familiar.
am, but we don't have Waffle Houses here in Michigan.
Fair.
Okay, you could find a place that makes waffles and
Like an
do,
IHOP.
maybe we could do something like that. So
Explain the challenge. What is it?
the Waffle House Challenge is the loser has to go to Waffle House and spend 24 consecutive hours at Waffle House. Every full waffle that they consume buys down 1 hour off their time. So if you can go there and eat 22 whole waffles, you can be done in 2 hours and be out of there.
Wow.
And so that was kind of a viral thing going around during fantasy football season. We could do something similar. But
From what I see on social media, quite often surviving 24 hours in a Waffle House just physically could be, without eating, could be enough of a challenge given all the balls and stuff. Oh, that's fun. Hey, a reminder, we'd love to have you all in the Church Pew Sports bracket. The link to enter is in the podcast notes, and it's also on our social media challenge.
yeah, all you need to do is go to ESPN, fill out your bracket, and then when it's like join a group, you just got to search Church Pew Sports.
Okay.
That's another easy way that you can find it and get yourself entered. So
Stuff.
and you
Time
have
for
to-
Holy Discontent. Let's go.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
All right, time to blow off some steam. I don't know where to start with this one. Paul, let's have you do that.
Yeah, I'm sure David's ready for my holy discontent, which is with Dusty May.
I wish everybody could see
Coach.
the Zoom window right now. David's got his eyes closed in anticipation of this moment.
Opie Cunningham, the coach of the Michigan Wolverines men's basketball program. I'll just say up front, I am not a Michigan State basketball fan. I am not a Tom Izzo fan. I'm really not a fan of the tradition of kissing the logo at center court as seniors. And we all saw what happened there. I actually think Dusty May is a great coach, and I was really excited for the first-year guy to come in and lead Michigan to the Big Ten Tournament Championship, which really helped them with their seeding in the NCAA Tournament. But here's the thing. When asked about it, he kind of did a dodge and weave, and any of these responses would have been perfectly acceptable to me. He could have said, that's a dumb tradition. And I would have said, you're right, it is. He could have said, hey, celebrate after the game. And he would have been right. He could have said, rival's going to rival. And that's just what happens when rivals match up with each other. He could have said, I support my guys and their right to stand their ground at the center of the logo. He could have said that. He could have said, I don't worship Tom Izzo like the rest of you yahoos do, right? Any of those responses would have been appropriate, but instead he kind of did this dodge and weave, half tongue in cheek. I'm kind of going to deny that I know what's going on. And I think we have him on mic.
I didn't know there was a tradition where they're shooting a free throw and we have guys standing half court. That there's not a tradition that we can't stand half court as the game's going on. So I'm not familiar with that one. Is that a tradition? Are we not allowed to stand at half court while they're shooting a free throw? Oh, you are? Okay. So look, they earned the right to rub our noses in it. It is what it is. We have to play better. We have to get tougher. And so we move on and we got to compete for another championship this week.
I get what he's doing there. He's kind of doing the tongue in cheek. Did we break the rules here? No, we didn't. And he's not wrong about that. I wish he just would have stood up and said, hey man, rival's going to rival. If you're going to have a tradition that is that stupid, then I'm going to totally stand behind my guys if they're going to try and interrupt it. I would have had more respect for that. There you go.
And I wish he would have said, like a minute and a half earlier, another one of their players kissed the logo and our guys were standing in the exact same spot. So I'm unclear as to why this is an issue.
Right.
What do you wish he had said?
Oh, are you asking me?
I am. I'm sorry to wake you. Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was in another place. Like I just as I love Paul and I know he understands the moral understanding of guys like Jim Tressel and Urban Meyer. He's a big fan of those guys. So, I mean, I look at this whole situation and I'm like, what is it's not a thing. Like a couple of freshmen made a statement. the coach stood up for them like without making it more of an issue than it had to be. Like, why is this a thing? Like, I don't even understand it. Like, Michigan State players took way too much on themselves to like shove guys, move guys out of the way. Like, just there was plenty of room to kiss whatever. I'm not going to say the word I was going to say.
I know you
but
were.
there's plenty of room to kiss things. Like, just go kiss whatever you want on the floor. Like, why is this an issue? Like, this is the dumbest thing. I get it. When Sawyer was mad at Michigan planting the flag at Ohio State, like that was a clear sign of disrespect. This wasn't a clear sign of disrespect. This was just two freshmen like being disrespectful, but that's very different than like we're as an organization going to do something that pisses you off. Like they're very different things. Like I just don't see them in the same category. And I get that you want to, Paul, but I just don't see that.
I think you're making an assumption there about my motives. I just think it's hilarious and it was all over Twitter. Therefore, it's a conversation. I heard that whole tradition at Michigan State started because the Fab Five like rubbed their, what's on the logo at Michigan State after beating them or some
30
such.
years ago, they might have done that. That's
But
probably.
I never even heard that. Like
I hadn't either. It cracks me up. It just cracks me up.
Yeah, it's funny. It's very funny. I love rivalries. This is why we like sports, because this stuff happens, and that makes me happy.
Josh, what's the view of all this from the halls of higher academia there in North Carolina?
About this?
Yeah.
I think David said it best. I agree. He denied. I don't see the problem with it. He didn't know. You got to take him at his word.
Okay.
That's all we can really do. My holy discontent is the Hoosier basketball fans and the impact they've had on one of their own. Omar Ballo talking about how he has been treated by Hoosier fans because they didn't win.
At the end of the day, we are human beings. We have feelings, Just like you wake up, go to work, and someone is wishing nothing but the worst to you and your work. It's mental draining, and nobody want to deal with that for a whole 5-month season. It's too much to take in for players and for coaches. And I hope, man, they change, man, because it's time. Like, they're not helping us. They're not helping anybody. If you're not cheering for us, just leave us alone, because at some point, you have life, go take care of that and let us handle ours. At some point, like, they have to stop wishing bad for people.
At some point, they have to stop wishing bad for people. He was almost that guy, but my holy discontent, because if you're going to drive a kid to that point, I'm glad he's articulate enough to be able to really clearly share his hurt. But come on, people. Yeah, we can get mad at the committee. We can get angry with Bubba Cunningham. He's not a kid. But for these kids that are playing the games, let's draw a line somewhere. Like the death threats that he was talking about later in the interview, if that actually happened, you got to be kidding me.
I had to figure it out.
Yeah. All right, here we go. That guy.
Right now, this minute, today, this week.
Yes, we're calling people out who are doing things that we kind of like, we kind of approve of. I'm going to lead this one off because I've been sitting on this one, and just today I learned that for the comments you're about to hear, this gentleman was fined $100,000. Granted, he makes a lot of money. I understand, but that's still six figures. And David Collins and I, mostly David, getting the ball rolling down the very steep hill, talking about the disrespect directed towards the most energetic and resurgent team in the National Basketball Association, being the Detroit Pistons. And in a game just a couple of days ago, the All-Star, their go-to guy, Cade Cunningham, was ejected from the game for saying he got his first technical foul because he said to the official, "Oh, on replay, they just deemed it a regular foul, so we can line up for free throws now," because the other official didn't know that. And because he said that to the guy, he didn't say it profanely. the guy teed him up for saying that. And then Cade shared a few more thoughts, which got him a second technical foul, got him ejected. And the rest of that game was a debacle from an officiating standpoint. Pistons go on to lose. As Josh Gilmer said, we don't care that much because it's the NBA, but around these parts where we're enjoying a resurgent Pistons team, it's fun to have a coach who is standing up for his team. And Coach Bickerstaff has had it up to here.
And enough is enough of it. And what you saw tonight was disgusting. It was a disgusting display of disrespect towards our guys and what we're trying to do. Is get the same respect that everybody else in this league gets and get refereed the same way that everybody else in this league gets.
And the sounds that you were hearing were him aggressively pounding the table, papers flying, and then he got up and left. And like I said, $100,000 later, I hope his point got across because, David shouting amen as I was as well. If you watch any bit of their play, you'll be mystified as to who they made angry because it is clearly a double standard against the Pistons. So that's that guy, Coach Bickerstaff of the Pistons, standing up for his boys. Paul, what's yours?
Okay, so first of all, I do completely agree. It was cool to hear Coach do that, and I'm a Bulls fan, but I still think he's 1,000% correct. That guy this week goes out to anybody that participated in the Iditarod in Alaska, which I just saw the headline that the dog sled race across Alaska was just completed. So I did a little Google search, and here's what I found out. This year they had to change the course because they have to figure out where there's snow and where there isn't snow and all this other stuff. So the course this year was longer than ever, 1,128 miles. The winner, a guy named Jesse Holmes, won the race in 10 days. Well, I should say his dogs won the race. 10 days, 14 hours, 55 minutes, right? Then I dug in a little bit further. There's a rule in the Iditarod. It's called it's Rule 35, electronic devices. No two-way communication devices, including cell phones, no other electronic communication or satellite tracking devices, no night vision goggles. You are on your own out in the wilderness trying to figure this thing out. You can have those things with you, so if you come up against a life or death situation, you can not die, but you're not allowed to use them. It's automatic disqualification. The only thing you can have is a little GPS, not on your phone, just a separate GPS thing. And most fascinating to me is that a typical sled dog over the course of the Iditarod needs to consume 12,000 calories a day in order to keep his or her energy up to compete in the Iditarod. I think that's just really cool. It's way cooler than the Tour de France or any of these other endurance things that we see going on in the world of sports. So way to go, all of you that were crazy enough to participate in the Iditarod. Way to go.
10 days. Yikes. Josh, I know you have to go pretty soon. Do you have anybody you want to call out as you're that guy as you head out?
I must admit, I feel badly for him. However, Jalen Withers with the lane violation heard around the world.
Oh, man.
Won us the game. So that's my guy. For the rest of the tournament, I'm rooting for him. Just him.
How are you a Gilmer? How are you a Gilmer? You're too cool to be a Gilmer. I don't even understand it.
Trying to think back to the last time I ever saw a lane violation called at any level whatsoever. And in that moment, for that little jab step, I'm like, he did not call that. Oh, yeah, he called it. And it changed the outcome of the game. Oh, that poor kid. Good stuff. Josh.
Randy could have had that guy, but then we would have all been sitting around going, nice try, man, but you whiffed. Yeah. That's what the response would have been. So
yeah,
you're right.
True. It's just the Josh vibe. It's the Duke vibe.
Yes, Josh is a vibe. He's
by
a
the
vibe.
way,
I like
by
him.
the way, a quick word of congrats.
I cannot believe he's a Gilmer.
To the entire Gilmer family, because Randy's got Michigan in the tournament. Josh, of course, has Duke in the tournament, but Jeremiah, the other brother, attends High Point University.
Yeah.
And they are also in the tournament. So I don't know how all this comes out.
Josh, I just want you to know, I've known your dad since I was 8 years old. I'm blown away that you are the person you are. I love him. He's great. But man, you are cool. And he was not that.
Oh,
thank you.
Funny. I cannot wait to send this link to Randall Gilmer,
Randy.
like we do every other week when we
And
talk.
I love Randy. He's a great guy, but
Yeah.
just
Is Randy you're that guy, David?
what's that?
Randy, you're that guy?
No.
Okay, who's your that guy?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Because of Josh. That's why Randy's my that guy.
Because he raised Josh.
Yes. He
There
was wonderful as a parent.
Oh my goodness. Josh, good to see you. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
We're going to close things out with our 3-minute message.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26, the foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there.
Yeah. Think about it.
All right, think about it. So this has been a really fun conversation today. I am fully understanding, and my heart goes out to Michigan fans who are upset, West Virginia fans who are upset. But I just want to share a verse with all of us. Matthew 7:13 and 14 says, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." So yes, you might have a lower seed than you probably should have had in the tournament. And you kind of said this yourself, David, let's just go play, right? At the end of the day, if Michigan or any other team that feels like they kind of got hosed by the selection committee, if they go out and win some games, it's going to mean that much more to them. And I think the application to us in life is that if we get too caught up in trying to figure out the easy path, we might miss the most meaningful path that we're going to walk down. So I just want us to take that kind of life lesson with us into our week, into our month of March Madness here, and take it from there.
Well said. Good stuff.
Really
That was
good.
fun. That was a fun
Really
episode. Thank you all for listening. Make sure you get in the CPS bracket challenge, and we will check in with you during the tournament, of course, to see how everybody's doing. We'll arrive at the final destination for the reward and punishment side of the brackets at some point here in the next couple of days. We'll share that on our social media channels at Facebook and on X. Make sure you follow us there as well. Thanks much, folks. Enjoy the madness of March, and remember, no text from me about the incessant reviews. I'm over it.
Okay.
Until the games start. See you later.